Chapter 427. Croydon's Compass. Thea held the palm-sized tool in one hand and experimented with it a few times. The first function was to search for magic signals, and the second function was to find people. However, it was limited by the level of the original creator. It couldn't find divine weapons or magic weapons, and people above the level of demigod. Its range of application was limited to the level of mortals. In addition, in modern society, there were all kinds of interference. Many places like the Heaven's Eye Society couldn't be found by the compass. Although there were many shortcomings, its advantages were also outstanding. For ordinary people, it could be called a divine weapon. A good-for-nothing young man who doesn't look down on a poor young man. After getting the compass, he found a secret inheritance and soared to the sky. These images instantly popped up in Sia's mind. If this thing was released to the outside world, it could easily cause a lot of trouble. At this time, she could also understand some of Constantine's painstaking efforts. This guy's bottom line was even lower than the transmigrators. He collected magic items all over the world to stabilize the world. This was the era of mortals, the era of science and technology. Thea didn't have any big ambitions to revive the glory of the magic era because she knew that in the future, Earth would continue to develop science and technology. This trend had long been set. Reverse lightning in the 25th century, the Queen of Emerald Eyes in the 31st century, and the Magician in the 64th century. These transmigrators were all well-known figures in science and technology. In the 64th century, there was no difference between the development of science and magic. The way people lived had undergone earth-shaking changes. Things that modern society thought were magic could be realized with science and technology in that era. She didn't worry too much about whether people were happy or not 4,000 years later. She still had a lot of things to do. First, she returned to Star City to check on the homework of her two disciples. The two children were too smart. Originally, she almost didn't have anything to teach them. Now that she had obtained the memories of Master Sargon's lifetime, it was too easy to fool the two naughty children. Damien was dumbfounded by the long list of theories. The Demon King's princess, Raven Lowly, also stared with her eyes wide open and her small mouth forming an O shape. The gem magic and irony magic were also taught to the two of them. Raven Lowly was very resentful of throwing shiny gems at people. Her magic was almost infinite, so there was no need for her to do so. She secretly hid the few gems that Thea gave her, but her irony magic was really good. Damien, on the other hand, was the complete opposite of her. He didn't have enough magic, so it was very difficult for him to practice irony. However, he had a special liking for gemstone magic. In his opinion, it was no different from throwing a bomb. He used his father's credit card and bought a bag of gemstones to practice. Not to mention the frightened Batman who received the credit card bill. Thea hired 3 expedition teams in her name to search for the temple mentioned by Faust in the Peruvian jungle. The original space-time was discovered by Constantine's good friend, Nick Nacro. However, this unlucky fellow was quickly abandoned by Slag Kong, who had fallen in love with Zatanna. Just before they found the temple, he was killed by the two, and his soul entered hell. Later on, it was Faust who sacrificed his lifespan to bring this guy back from hell. Now, this unlucky guy was still in hell, and Faust himself had been sent by Old Ma to accompany him. Brother Nick would have to live in hell for a few more years. This group of bad guys kept a trick up their sleeves. Without Nick's specific guidance, Faust only knew the approximate location. The power of the temple was still there, blocking the detection of the compass and the search of the Eye of Horus. Thea tried several methods, but in the end, she had no choice but to use the stupidest method, which was to send people to search for the temple. The 3 expedition teams all had mercenaries loyal to Death Knell. As long as the target was found, Thea would be able to go there immediately. A whole month passed. Other than Batman complaining to her that Damien's expenses were a little too high, there was no new news. After dealing with the affairs of the committee, Thea let out a long sigh. The 7 alien cities had been normalized. Under the situation of a stick in one hand and a carrot in the other, many aliens had registered. However, this work had just begun. Out of more than 100,000 aliens, Less than 30,000 of them had registered with the committee. The rest were either observing or doubting. General Lane initially wanted to force the registration, but Thea stopped him. For the aliens in a few of the cities, although there were some differences in their development, overall they were not as good as Earthlings. This group of people was just sitting at home. Before they could figure out what was going on, a big cover was placed on them. After that, the city fell into chaos until Thea led a team to rescue them. They did not have an understanding person like Thea to explain the general situation of the universe to them, nor did they know about Brainiac. Many aliens saw the black technology of the committee and thought that the Earthlings had captured them. Some cried, some knelt down and begged, and some wanted revenge. There were many different sentiments. General Lane heard that the Earth was also a developed planet in the eyes of the aliens, so he temporarily stopped the idea of forcing the registration. The old general's sense of honor was satisfied. Under the special publicity of the committee, the news of aliens landing on the Earth was slowly revealed to the outside world. After the initial panic, many brave guys jumped out. The incident that Thea had dealt with before was a typical example. This woman, whose code name was Gambling House, was an ordinary person without any enhancements or abilities. She was the owner of a very famous underground casino. She saw the value of the aliens. In just 1 month, she had kidnapped or robbed dozens of aliens from the 7 alien cities to fight in her casino to satisfy the perverted hobbies of the rich. When Digger, a former bodyguard and now one of the leaders of the armed forces, first reported to Thea, she did not believe it. How could an ordinary Earthling be so bold? However, in front of a few pieces of evidence, she had to admit that people could be as bold as they could be. This woman, who wore a red dress with a high slit and had an azure dragon tattoo on her body, had business all over the world. Her underground casino fully satisfied the psychology of the rich. The battle between humans and beasts, the battle between humans and aliens, and the battle between aliens and beasts, there was nothing that she could not do. Mr. Digger, catch this woman. Thea collected some clues from the Sky Eye Society and other intelligence agencies and gave a stack of information to the black man. These ordinary people were not worthy of her personal action. The black man did not care how Thea mobilized his troops. He also had a set of kinetic skeletons and Thea's freeze gun. With hundreds of people, he would not lose to a woman who relied on her mouth to escape. While Thea was thinking about where to go on the weekend, Fiora came in a hurry. The news from the Pentagon. 10 minutes ago, an unidentified flying object landed on the Earth. Looking around and seeing that there was no one around, she whispered, "Looking at the photo, it looks like Krypton's Fort Ross. It is different from the Black Fog Fort where we are imprisoned. Fort Ross is full of Krypton felons." Chapter 428. Fortress Ross? Thea's expression was a little unnatural when she heard this. This is Supergirl's enemy. This group of brutal aliens came to Earth so early? Although this fortress, Supergirl spaceship, and General Zod flew out of the Phantom area at the same time, it was huge and not a normal aircraft at all. Supergirl's small spaceship landed on Earth 6 years ago, followed by General Zod's Black Fog Fortress. Because he had scientists who could modify the prison, he arrived on Earth half a year ago. Fortress Ross is different. If General Zod is a political prisoner, Fortress Ross is a criminal prisoner. The prison conditions and staffing are different. According to the original timeline, after they rushed out of the Phantom area, it would take at least 10 years for them to arrive on Earth. History has really been changed. Thea doesn't know if this is her own doing, or the work of Madame Soto, or is it the work of those speedsters, the technological transmigrators of the future world. There are too many possibilities, and it is really hard to judge. No matter what the future will develop, it is time to go and see. After asking for the coordinates, Thea and Fiora teleported to the wilderness of New Mexico. The two of them searched for a little and found the landing object. From the outside, it looked like a strange flying object formed by the intersection of 2 rings with a diameter of thousands of meters. But if you look carefully, it is not difficult to find that there are dense partitions in the rings. Each partition is a prisoner's cage. There are no signs of life in the spaceship. Did they run so fast? Thea glanced from afar. The expected scene of hundreds of aliens flying out did not appear. The spaceship was empty, as if it had been abandoned for several days. The two entered the spaceship and took away all the weapons that could be used as weapons. The two came to the main control computer and got control of the spaceship by relying on Fiora's identity. Fiora checked and said with some depression, they used light and shadow refraction equipment. In fact, the spaceship has been landing for 3 days. These are all Krypton felons and they have all run away. Unlike Superman, Fiora had no feelings for Earth. She only felt that the escape of these Kryptonian criminals was a provocation to her, the only person who still had a job on Krypton. Whether it was duty or obligation, she had to catch these people back. This was the only thing she could do for Krypton. Thea did not care about the Kryptonian honor. She only remembered that the leader of this group seemed to be Supergirl's aunt. Although she was a Kryptonian, she was not a warrior. Most likely, she was born as a government support personnel and would not pose any threat to her. Thea had read many Kryptonian genetic profiles. She did not feel pressured by the information on the spaceship. Soon, she found something different from what she remembered. Supergirl's aunt, General Astra, had committed suicide after the destruction of Krypton. Now, the one leading everyone was her adjutant and her husband, Norn. This guy used ruthless means to integrate the resources on the spaceship. This might be the main reason why he landed on Earth in advance. Let's take this spaceship back and use it as a prison in the future. Thea was worried about where to put the aliens who committed crimes. She could not put them in Blackgate Prison or Belgrave Prison. Just as she was worrying, the prison automatically fell down. Fiora and Norn were both adjutants, but as the battle sequence, she was half a level higher than Norn, who was in charge of logistics affairs. She easily overtook the other's authority. If it was in the past, such a big toy that weighed thousands of tons would not be able to be taken away without exposing its true strength. Now it was easier. An atomized field was built on the spot. 5 rays were aimed at Fortress Ross at the same time. In the blink of an eye, it had shrunk to the size of a fist. The Missy was ready to stuff it into her bag. The two searched the spaceship and atomized the prison. Took them an hour to finish all this. Just as they were about to leave, the Martian hunter, who acted like an ordinary person, finally arrived at the scene with his men. This should be managed by the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. The Martian hunter saw the spaceship that looked like a toy in Thea's hand. He knew that he was late, but he still wanted to fight for it. This is clearly the responsibility of the Alien Supervision and Management Committee. Thea did not back down. Public is public. This is the disadvantage of the cross-agency. Their functions overlap with each other. It seems that anyone can manage it, but it is a competition of who is tough. In order to win their trust, Thea also took out her ID and showed it to them. The Martian hunter was helpless. In order to disguise his identity, he could not fly over like Thea when he heard the news. Took him an hour to get there. He was fast. The Sky's Eye Society, which could also manage this matter, had just set off. The two were talking on the surface, but the spiritual channel was not idle. One said that this was a Krypton spaceship and Fiora had the indisputable leadership. The other said that both of them were too young. I have experience in dealing with this matter. You should leave it to me. Uncle Rong-en, you don't want to expose your identity. It is dangerous to fight aliens with a group of agents. You know that these guys are felons of Krypton. Can you bear to see your men die tragically? If you can't make up your mind, let's go to the Bat Cave to vote. Thea said cheerfully in the spiritual channel. The Martian hunter thought about it. Thea's words made sense. He could not fight, so it was indeed inhumane to rely on submachine guns and grenades to deal with all kinds of ferocious aliens. As for going to the Bat Cave to vote, he did not care. They had already discussed the matter of Fiora staying on Earth. Superman was in favor of having one more compatriot on Earth. Diana knew that Fiora was Thea's subordinate. She felt that the more strong women there were, the better. She also happily agreed. Batman abstained, so the final vote was 3-1. Was there still a vote this time? The Martian hunter felt that the result was already decided. There was no suspense at all. Both sides confirmed the ownership and went back to their own homes. Thea brought the prison spaceship back to the committee. She did not go too far. Whether it was the Sky's Eye Society or the Super Investigation Bureau, they could throw criminals who were difficult to lock up into the spaceship. The spaceship was very spacious. It would not be a problem to hold 8 to 10,000 criminals. The parties were not too happy. Everyone knew that this spaceship of alien criminals had entered a human city. It was only a matter of time before they caused trouble or even committed crimes. A few departments were secretly accumulating strength and setting up spies, waiting for the enemy to make a move. 3 days passed quickly. Fiora's super hearing was still running. Thea was also searching from time to time. She had mobilized facial recognition and satellite positioning. California, Nakanel City. High-intensity battle reaction. Gideon received the news immediately. Thea cast an invisibility spell on Fiora and directly stepped into a portal.